Alrighty, everybody. Are you ready? Because Katie's ready. So, if you're ready, come on up, Miss Katy Manning.
I was hugging in the wings, of course. I say, I hope I can come back again here, even if it's just to apologize.
There's nothing to apologize for.
Can I have this?
Yes, ma'am. I see you brought water this time. You didn't want a chance having that.
I mean, whatever I drank yesterday, please forgive me. Right. Anyway, I know I can do it. I can actually speak to you without using this, but I won't show off. Look at me. I can't help myself, can I? I have to be constantly attached to them.
I don't mind.
You know, I just love people. Animals too, but people. Anyway, you probably found that out by now. There's all the people going around. Quick, hide, she's coming down the corridor, she's going to hug us. This is a hugging monster.
We're going to be a little bit more informal today since yesterday was such a huge crowd. We can be a little more casual today.
Oh, I'm always casual.
But we do have the microphone here if you would like to ask Miss Katy a question.
And feel free to do that, won't you?
Absolutely.
Surprise me. Make my little brain work.
We've got a little thing that we want to do about halfway through. Katy has brought a couple of items that she really wants to help us raise some money for our Nepal relief fund that we're doing this year. So we have a couple of items that she would like to raffle off, and she's going to autograph to you.
I mean, it's one of those things I feel very strongly about. My son actually has twice now gone beyond base camp up to Everest. He took his fiancée up there last one. I thought, well, she's a good girl. She's prepared to, you know, all the training you have to do before you do that. And so they have a lot of friends there, and it's been quite devastating. And none of us can ever understand what something like that would be like. So all the money I can help raise, I really want to. Okay.
Before we take our questions, though, I want to say, I don't know if you heard last night, but we announced a couple of our guests for next year. And one of them is Mr. Graham Harper.
Oh!
Who worked on a number of your productions.
Yes, I mean, he's now this terrific director. Back in my day, he was the floor manager.
Right.
And he's the one, with the floor managers, it's lovely. What they do is, you see, they have their headphones, and so the producers and directors, they're all up in the box saying, you know, tell Katy not to be such an idiot, and then he does the translating as, you know, Katy, would you mind just treading to the, you know, and I said, it's okay, darling, I can hear every word they really said, and I'm going already.
Well, he asked me to say hello to you.
Oh, he's a lovely man.
He said that working with you and John was one of the best experiences of his career. Oh. He loved you and loved your time on the show.
Well, we had, I mean, I promise you, it was an extraordinary time. And as I say, the camaraderie and the friendship and the warmth, and it was a very huggy company.
Well, with you there, how could it not?
And I do think, to a certain extent, I know that when I've been directing, that the most important thing is to get that extraordinary magic and casting in a way that is unexpected. Douglas Camfield used to call it dangerous casting, you know, which is probably why he cast me as the characters he cast me as later, because you quite often get something very unexpected and different if you do that. And it certainly, as Barry Letts said, worked between John and myself and Nick and everybody. It was wonderful. Great times.
Well, Mr. Harper told me very specifically that I had to ask you about your friendship with Liza Minnelli.
You know, it's very strange. When I wrote Not a Well Woman, there was a lot in my, you know, although it was a lot to do with how not seeing properly alters how you see life, if it's part of that kind of fun, but which it does, it changes the whole way that you think. Also, growing up First of all, I had a very famous father who has an OB, and so I was surrounded by sportsmen and boxers, all the famous cricket. I mean, it was, so I'd grown up. And then when I went to Dixon and Wolfe Tutorial School to meet Liza, who I didn't know who Judy Garland was. I knew who Sir Laurence Olivier was, and I knew who Cassius Clay was. But I didn't know who Judy Garland was. And so when my mother came to pick me up from her house, because we made friends like boom, instantly. And because we were both kind of, I don't know, we were both odd. I was so short-sighted, and neither of us could attract boys. Boys, you know, would go 6 miles out of their way to avoid us, and we were just at that age where boys were kind of getting interesting. You know, I just found out that Father Christmas didn't exist, so I went straight for boys. And anyway, so we began, when my mother came to pick me up, and she said, "Darling, do you know who your new friend Liza's mummy is?" And I said, "Yes, her mummy." And she said, "No, a little bit more than that." Anyway, so it was a very different kind of thing. It was, as I said to Liza years later, she made an album, and you know, she said, I said it should be Liza without sequins, which is the Liza that I knew. But I remember being taken by Mama to a concert, the first time I ever saw somebody stand on a stage and sing. And I tried to stop my heart beating in case I missed anything. I know that sounds weird, I'd never heard anything like it in my life. And Liza and I became the naughtiest two friends you could possibly imagine. And my favorite story is, we thought everything was shriekingly funny. Is this interesting to you? Okay. We thought everything was shriekingly funny. I mean, if you bring a jelly into the room where, you know, I mean, and Sid Luft, who was married to Judy at the time, you know, said, "Oh, why are these girls laughing all the time?" And Mama said, "Because they're 14. Right. Years later, we're traveling in a stretch limo in New York, and we were going to get, and I had an elasticated waist skirt on, and I slid across the limo, and strange experience, because what had obviously happened, the elastic had got tucked down the back of the car. So I'm basically trying to get out of the limo, and my skirt's waist is over here. Well, eventually it just went boing, 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 and I fell out of the limo into the gutter. No wonder we have such a bad reputation, Liza and I. And we are tears streaming down our face. I mean, we are crying, and we're trying to go into this very posh hotel, and we just daren't, because we cannot even, we still have this problem. And anyway, and so she said, "Can you hear Mama now? They're laughing because they're 45. and she was so wonderful when it was the children were. She said to me, "Now you have the children christened." I said, "Well, don't you just sort of take them to a library and have them stamped, darling?" She said, "No, Nanny, you have a party." And so next thing I know, I have 12 godparents. It's the biggest party in the entire universe, and we're standing around the font singing songs from Oliver. Go figure. There's so many stories, but I'll stop there. Oh, hello, darling.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's been so lovely, all the hugging good mornings.
I adore Iris Wildlife. Is there any chance of a 5th series from Big Finish?
It's, the new one's coming out.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, no, it's... Hello, where have you been? No, she's back out, and they've freed her from the home. And she has new traveling companions, much as we adore Panda. He does make a little, but it was time. It's a bit like changing Doctor Who companions. People say, "Oh, you know, why do you have to go?" Well, after 3 years or 2 years or whatever, you get to know how the doctor and the assistant are going to react. So you bring in, you can't change the doctor as regular, so you change the companion so that you have a new way for that doctor to react. And so it's a little bit like that with Iris. Otherwise it just becomes the same. You know they're going to react a particular way. So I've got new, young, gorgeous, I have to tell you, a young sea captain. Iris is a happy woman. And they're half hour now. And being produced, obviously Big Finish, but Scott Hancock is now the master of Iris. So they are going to be, and a half an hour really works with Iris, it really does, because you don't have all that stuff in between. You just get on with it, lovey. And Iris is not a woman to wait around. So yeah, they're coming out, so I hope you enjoy them. As much as I love doing them, I absolutely adore playing Iris. So thank you for enjoying her too.
Katy, there may be people here who don't know who Iris is.
Tough.
Okay, there you go. Next question.
I'm sorry, that was so flippant. My children do actually have a go at me for being flippant. And it's my terrible, twisted sense of humor. Iris Wildthyme is a wonderful character. She travels in a number 22 Putney Bush with a bar in the back. And she's a real old bag lady, and she's she travels around the universe causing absolute havoc, but also in her strange kind of way, sorting a lot of things out too. So she is quite something as Iris Wildthyme. So anybody who hasn't heard her, I think those of you that have would probably encourage those who haven't to give it a go. She travels round that multiverse. But it's such a gorgeous character, it really is.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, darling.
So, I've spent some time on film sets.
I'm sorry, I just saw the proper camera there, and I'm like this.
So, I've spent some time on sets over the years, and I know that film sets can be exciting places, they can be intimidating places, they can be boring places. Looking back on your time with John Pertwee and Nick Courtney and everybody on Doctor Who, what kind of thoughts do you have in terms of just being at work every day?
Oh, listen, we had the most wonderful time. John and I had a toy drawer, and we used to do all sorts of, we had to work extremely hard. I mean, you cannot take that away, but there was always moments where we had a lot of fun. John and I shared a love of motorbikes. He picked me up every single day from where I lived, and we went to work every day together. We went home together. We went on vacation together. So I think that already gives you a feeling of the camaraderie. One day we all got a bit carried away, and there's Nick and lovely Richard Franklin and Roger Delgado, and we went to the toy drawer. For some reason, I don't know why, John put on my really, really thick glasses, which none of you have seen yet. When you do, you'll just go, oh! Anyway, and he looks, and then we started, and we built, out of all the things in the rehearsal room and our toy drawer, we sort of built this aeroplane thing. And John was the pilot with the big, thick glasses. I was the air hostess. We found an old British Airways bag. And we forgot it was a producer's run. And the producers and all the technical team were coming in, and they come in, and there's all these actors being very proudly with their aeroplane. And, so there was that joy as well. But it was also very serious. And if something was wrong, like in Frontier in Space, I think it was, I had to do there was an escape from the master in a prison and all that. And and John didn't feel that it was logical, and we stopped in the rehearsal, and we rewrote that and made it work. I mean, it was a very, very important time. The only thing I have to tell you is, John had a certain problem with certain words, bit speeches, and one was this mathematical thing we had to do in one episode. I can't remember which one it was, and we had to be going through, and he said, "Right, Joe, we'll do that. Don't just follow me." And it was like he had to go through these whole mathematical equations. I'd learnt them because I can't see. John hadn't, so he had them written on the studio floor, right? Well, oh, so sorry. So, anyway, so when it doing the take. Well, of course, what is a BBC special effect without dry ice? You know, you gotta have it, right? So, there we are. And he's going, right, Joe, fair. The dry ice had covered all the numbers. And so I said, oh, doctor, do you mean, what's 94 times 33? And I gave the answer, and he said, nobody loves a smart ass. That was cut. So I think you get the general feeling, tremendous work, tremendous dedication, and something that so many people, especially when they meet me, but so many people don't realize is one of the most important things that you have to have as an actor, and that is discipline. It's one of the most disciplined jobs that you could ever imagine doing. So there you go.
Thank you.
Hey, sweetie peach.
Hello.
Hello.
So, your Twitter is absolutely delightful. It is like getting a hug through the internet when I read it. And I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about how you came to Twitter and what your experience has been like on it.
Well, I have a problem with a lot of, you know, I have to have an iPad because I can't see a computer screen, and it doesn't matter how big it is. It's like television screens. I have big problems because I have to get, it's kind of, even with my glasses, very close. And so when I have a computer, I have to get so close, but my hands are underneath a particular part of my anatomy, where you know, the typing bit thing is, right? So I'm like that. So you can't actually use them because typing under your bosoms is not easy, right? So I met a man on a train, this is true, who worked with partially sighted and blind people, and he said, the best thing for you would be the iPad, and my son had already said the iPhone. And when I discovered what I started to be able to do, you know, I mean, most people who know me say, oh, Katie's tweeting, you know, but I can hold it close to me, so I can see, I have to hold things here. If I'm you probably notice when I look at your name badges, I go, oh, yes, hello, Tom. And so, when I found out Twitter, Facebook sort of, it was all too much. And then when I discovered Twitter, and my goddaughter said, I'm going to show you how to do it, somehow it just worked instantly. I got it. And I got the fact that it was a lovely time to be loving and funny and witty without, you know, dribbling on, which I think happens if we have too much space to write in. You kind of dribble on a bit. And so for me, it was the perfect thing, you know, one line, boom, and now. And yet it's amazing what you can say in 40 characters. You know, I love it. I absolutely love it. I love Twitter. I adore it. Makes me laugh. I learn a lot from people. I just adore it. Twitter's my thing. Because I Twitter on a lot. Good morning, darling. Sorry, I don't know why I keep doing this. Every voice I hear, I want to do. Wait, I'll do. If you're very good, I'll do Popeye before I get off the stage. Have you heard my Popeye? Yeah. Okay, there's two things. Am I allowed to do two things before I leave? Of course. I mean, what do you want me to do right now? Now. Okay, then I'll get. Oh no, ask your question.
No, you can do it.
Oh, okay. I'm going to do this, and you're going to go. That was it. I'll half kill myself. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do Popeye, and then I'm going to show you how to do a Dalek. No. You're very, very naughty. Okay. So it's Popeye. Now, I could do this when I was 6, which really scared my parents, okay? And because I used to do impersonations, because I couldn't see, I was really good at sounds, like I could do, which some of you who might have seen the thing with the Jurassics, I got to use my chicken noises, yeah? And John Pertwee said, finally, you know? And So I did actually communicate with chickens. Okay, let's see if I can do this as I am. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm Touchstone to finish, 'cause I eat me spinach. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. Ooh, ooh. Oh, Popeye, Popeye. Do a little olive in there, too. Oh my gosh, Olive. Okay, that's scary coming out of a 6-year-old's mouth.
Now, did you know about how to do a dialect? I have too much time on my hands just by showing you this. Okay. Now, I learned that if you bend over, right, those of you who'd like to get up and join me, please. Get up and bend over, come on. Those who can, do. Okay, now you have to wobble your cheeks. These cheeks, not these. I must get a life. And you go like this, and you go. So the more you wobble the cheek, the more you get that show. Can we all do it together? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Earlier was in the video when they were playing Sarah Jane Adventures episode that you had you in it, and Death of the Doctor, that was amazing. And so I was just wondering what it was like filming that episode, working on it.
Oh, it was extraordinary. It was very scary because obviously I was coming back with a character and I had to create a character that had grown from this 40 years that she'd lived. So you had to see that. But you also maintained Joe, working with Liz, working with the whole team. Nothing had changed. There was, it was no rehearsal. You just go in, one camera rehearsal, shoot it and go. And it was just wonderful. And working with young Matt Smith, who I think was one of the most fascinating physical actors. Just his body language. I said to him, but I love the fact he said to me, he was interviewed, and he said, oh, she's as mad as a box of fish. They haven't worked with Matt. So, it was a wonderful experience, and working with Liz, and it was a joy for both of us. It was touching, and of course, you can imagine how much it brought back to me, to my wonderful days with my beloved John and the team there. I have been so lucky, and I'm still allowed to act. Isn't it wonderful?
You remember me?
Oh, darling, you have to come closer.
Okay.
Come on, give me a break here. Yes, I do.
Would you like to, at the end of the Green Death, would you like to have seen your character stay with the Doctor?
I think it was the perfect time for Joe to go. I think it was probably, I couldn't have asked for a better story.
And also, how did you feel at the end? I mean, were tears running down your cheeks when you had to leave?
I think the end of the Green Death tells you exactly not only how the characters felt, but how we felt. There were no words.
When I get back home and they start a Facebook thing, bring back Joe or else.
Well, you better get a move on, darling, because she hasn't got much longer here. Honestly, they think that I'm just going to carry on forever, don't
I think
they?
you will.
Well, Matron said if I carry on like this, she's throwing me out of the home.
Hello, where did she come from? Hello, sweetie.
Hi.
Oh, it's my little peach, come here. Come on, little peach. Come on, you, said Kitty. These are the people I love in life. There, now, what can I do for both of you?
What do you think about the success of Doctor Who in the United States for people of all ages and being such a part of that?
That was beautifully read. I was so busy listening, I didn't know what you said.
Can you say that to me again?
What do you think about the success of Doctor Who in the United States for people of all ages and being such a part of that?
I think it's the most exciting and wonderful thing, and I feel very much connected with the States because my sister and all my nieces and nephews who live here, and I've lived in America as well, and I love this country, and I think it's so exciting that they've discovered this very eccentric English program, and they've embraced it and welcomed it and loved it. And what's so beautiful to me, you look at the different age groups. Isn't it amazing that I can't think of any other show, honestly, that has this kind of love and this kind of huge span of age groups. Okay?
And what about you, Petal Pie? Do you have anything to say? What do you have to say?
How do you like to... How,
I know how you feel, sweetie. I feel like that too.
how do you feel to come to adventures like this?
Coming to, oh, I think it's pretty obvious how I feel coming to conventions like this. I feel I am, first of all, it's an absolute honor. I can't believe how I just love meeting everybody and knowing who you all are and the hugs and the love. And it's the best party in the entire world. I can't imagine more. And this convention, may I say,
You may.
boss, that everybody that's worked on this convention, you've probably noticed that, everybody's been lovely to you, has been so beautifully run, but it doesn't feel like a convention. It feels like we're all just hanging out in a hotel having a good time. And the hotel, I think, have been amazing too. Absolutely. I got a free meal because I didn't like to tell anybody, but I was quietly passing away in my room because the air conditioning wasn't working, and I was trying to live in like between 80 and 90 degrees. And so for the last two, and eventually I couldn't take it anymore, and I said something to my darling Erin, and she said, I think we better get them to look at it. And I got a free meal out of that. But they've been lovely. But no, I think, honestly, this brings so much joy to me. And I thank you all for being as wonderful as you all are. Absolutely. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, you're so gorgeous. I want to take all the children home with me. In this day and age, that doesn't sound too good, does it? You don't know how much I love children. Except my own. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I did try to sell them on eBay, though. No.
Hello.
Darling.
I've heard you hugged everyone else, and I just wanted to hug too. May I
Oh,
please?
come here. Thank you. Just a hug.
But I do
Oh, no,
also.
she's got a question.
I'll just take the free hugs also. So having met you now, I feel like you and Joe Grant are very similar people.
You do?
So, you're both full of life and so happy and just, don't take this the wrong way, but kind of goofy. And that that's one of the highest compliments I can make. But my question for you is, how much of the character was written without you, and how much did you bring to the character? How much was Jo Grant kind of created because of you?
Well, you create a certain character, as Barry Lex did. You know, and she was. I mean, she came in. That's the lovely thing about Jo. You saw her grow up. You saw her go way beyond. You know, she was 18, 19. And her uncle was very high up in unit. But she was a gutsy little thing. And she was fun, gutsy, and absolutely, I mean, how she protected that doctor of hers was, I think, amazing. You know, I mean, she did offer her life for him. And I thought she was a lovely character. But when you create a character like that, I came in, I had to lift my voice up because John said I sounded like a long-distance lorry driver. And we were driving on filming one day, and I had to say, gloomy old day, doctor. And we had the camera attached to Bessie, and I went, gloomy old day, doctor. He said, we have to go again. She just turned into the lorry driver. Gloomy old day, doctor. So, you know, up was the voice. So there was certain, but then things start to happen when you put all the actors together. And so, you know, and you could see little bits more were creeping in that I was bringing in to the character. But also they liked the idea, the writers especially, of actually getting Jo to grow up and learn. So she didn't come in one, you know, and stay as one character. She came in and you just watched those wonderful years and the knowledge, and suddenly she's going, hang on, this isn't right. And so she was a joy. So a little bit of both, really, as an actress. You know, you have the character, but I had to put the heartbeat into it. So I hope I did that for you.
I will say, Jo is one of the most lovable characters, one of the most lovable companions. She's just somebody that you want to hug. I mean,
She was like...
so you definitely brought that.
Yes, the hugging, I have to say, yes, definitely, did come from moi.
We're gonna have to cut the questioning off. I was gonna do it after this gentleman because he was the last one in line. But well, hang on, because we have to give away. We have to do our little raffle over here. And if we have time after that, we'll get more questions. How about that?
And I'll answer them anyway, darling. Later, come to my room.
I really should have an off button. I remember my partner said that. Everybody said, oh, isn't it lovely? Katy must be so exciting. She's so happy. He said, yeah, I just wish she had an off button. What was your question, darling?
Well, Alan, first I've got to tell you, this is the best Doctor Who guest ever. You have brought so much love and just so much energy.
I paid him for that, Alan.
It's been a pleasure having you here.
Oh, it's been a joy.
My question for you is, as I understand, you were a young actress coming out of school when you were picked up for Doctor Who, is that correct?
Yeah, no, I mean, very quickly, I mean, I actually was offered, when I was 16, 5 years with MGM, and which I won't get into now because we don't have time, so I didn't end up by doing that. I ended up by kind of going back to it, and then I had a very serious car crash, and it took 2 years out of my life. And so that was the end of my dancing career. And so I then decided I was going to be an actress, and I was in one other series before I got Doctor Who. So yes, I was very young and had a lot of facial reconstruction and never thought that maybe television would be my thing, but it was, so I was very lucky.
Was it intimidating when you first came on set and you met John Pertwee?
Oh.
Because he'd been performing for so long.
I couldn't speak. I mean, I was just like an idiot. I just sort of stood there going, yes, sir, no, sir, you know. And but no, we hit it off so quickly, but I was very shy, very nervous, very scared, very happy. And I did a lot of hugging.
Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really quickly, before we do this, we always hear about Nick Courtney and John Pertwee and all the others. Did you ever get a chance to meet Caroline John?
We did a thing with Louise Jameson called Girls, Girls, Girls. And yeah, and we forgot that we were doing, we just kind of, you know, it was like when people listen to the Russell T Davies and I apparently on the Green Death and Sarah Jane Adventure, we forgot that we were actually being in. And he said to me, Katy, you have to hear this. He said, we are nuts together. But yeah, no, it was the same thing. And I adored Caroline. She was absolutely the loveliest lady. And we're very, very lucky to have got episodes with her in. That was her wonderful legacy to us all. Great respect for her as an actress.
Okay, so we have two items here. We have...
Oh, I trod on this one. Now she tells you. I trod on this one. I'm ever so sorry. I didn't damage the inside, but I didn't know it was behind me. It's behind you. And I'm afraid I did break it. So, you know, does that matter? It's a bit like me, really. The outside's a bit broken, but the inside's all right. And I will sign it happily. So we have the demons, and we have the Ghost in the Machine. I think that's directed by Louise Jameson.
Oh yeah, I think so.
I think that is. So that's a little cutie too. So these I would like to auction off, and for much needed money to go to Nepal. So if anybody'd like to be a part of that, stick your hand up now, lovey. Right. Okay. How do we do it? I've never done an auction.
Well, neither have I. Let's start the bidding at $1,000. It's for the children.
Oh, you can over a period of time.
An installment plan. Layaway special.
I've never done an auction before, but I just like somebody to be able to put something in. So where did we start? We're going down from 1,000 to, you know, who give me...
I'm sorry?
$25.
25.
Cool. Any advances on 25? Both sides.
30.
35.
35. 40, 50. 60.
70.
Oh my God, this is so much fun. I'm so enjoying this. It's a new career for me. All right, 70 was the last bid. 75.
Thank you.
Is that for both or for each?
Oh, let's do it both of here all bloody night.
80.
I don't mean to be so flippant. It is
Did you say 75 or 80? 80, okay.
both sides.
100. I'm sorry.
Any credit card you can swear?
That's what I was thinking. If you do want to do a credit card, we can run it out on the TimeGate store over here. So we're up to 100.
I mean, it's a really important cause.
120. Wow.
I mean, seriously important cause. No, I mean that.
130.
Thank you.
Going
And
once.
140.
140.
Can I hear 150?
Wow, look at that.
Thank you.
Oh, did the 150 over here? 150, so you want to go 160? 160.
Thank you. Okay, do I hear 170?
I know, I think you are.
Okay, do I hear 170? Come on, 170. What hell are they doing over here? They're doing it about right? Put it on the 10 and going. I've seen that program, which is Storage Wars. I know how they do that. Okay, any advances on 170?
170 here.
170, thank you. Okay, any advances on 170?
200. Whoa.
And I know all those people in the hall, thank you. 200, we're on to 200 now. Okay, how are we doing? Okay, I think we're going to go with this. 200 going. Oh!
210.
210 going. Once.
220.
220 going. Once. 230.
Oh!
230 going. Once.
230 going once. Oh.
250.
250
Wow.
going once. 250 going twice.
260.
260.
Can we, somebody just say 300 and just...
And then we'll call it quits.
260, yes? Okay.
260 going once. 260 going... I gotta get the fingers the right way around. Twice. 250. 260. Going. Gone.
That is amazing. $260 for a CD and a broken DVD.
But we do all know how important it is, and that was, I can't thank you, that was hugely generous, all who partook. I can't visually know who got it. Well, he gets the big hug, the signatures, and I know there's a lovely lady there who was really keeping it going, and all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
We have a couple of more minutes. What did you think of the 50th anniversary episode?
Oh, well, I got to watch that with a lot of very special people, didn't I? We had sort of just about every doctor that you could possibly think of. And it was so wonderful because all of the companions were there. All of the doctors were there. I mean, that was an extraordinary, wonderful time, absolutely joyous. And, you know, the companions are a very, very strong little group, as we discovered over the 50th. This is, you know, don't mess with the companions, sweetie, because there's one strong bunch of peoples.
In the 50th, leading up to it, there was a lot of speculation about whether the old doctors would be invited in. And of course, they ended up not being, you know, and for various reasons, and it's understandable. But for the 50th to really have had a good anniversary feel, if they felt like they couldn't have invited the doctors in, what they should have done, in my opinion, is the character of the moment was played by Billy Piper. It should have taken on the form of past companions. So it would start with the image of Rose, and then maybe go to Sophie, and then Janet, and then you, and then maybe end up at the end with Carol Ann Ford.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, but you see, there are a lot of slight problems here because of storylines. You would have had to have had their old character faces.
Not necessarily.
In most of them. Well, not most of them, but in a few. You know, because you've got no background stories, and then you know, it's a lot more complex than that sounds, because there will always be people say, oh, but how could that have happened? She was supposed to have not, you know, and then we're all older, and la 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 la, and the doctors who wouldn't, you know, it's a lot more complex, and I think, I know what you're saying, and it would have been lovely, but I think they could have done it with, like, just shots, photos. I think, you know, like a sequence where the doctor goes back and he sees all his companions, or whatever. And the doctors, you know, you can do all the... It's more complicated than I think it ever sounds. But you could have done it with photographs, I think.
Yeah,
and a sort of dream sequence.
It's nice to have the actors involved.
It is, but... You know, there has to be background stories to all of them to say why and how they are the way they are now. Because some of them, you know, it says in the Sarah Jane, so-and-so and so-and-so, oh, they're still around, they haven't aged since then because they've been, you know what I mean? And then you suddenly put up. So you could have done it at the end. Then you could have had them as we are now, because then you would have been actually crossovering with the actors. And I can see the difficulties that it would have brought. But yeah, I kind of sort of agree with you. But I also have a head of a director, writer, and so on. you know, whatever you do, you're always going to disappoint some people. And you're going to, you know, and you won't disappoint others. So it's a very difficult situation to be in. But I do think at some point in the future, it should be, because we're going to be losing more and more people, whether we like this or not, it's a fact. And I think we need I think the time is coming when there needs to be something where everybody that's been a companion and a doctor, and not just done in some sort of spoof or anything like that, you actually see them. I think, you know how you do at the end of the Oscars, or in any of those award ceremonies, you have this wonderful montage of people, and I think something like that should happen very soon, because it's getting to that time when I think that needs to be. Yeah. And I won't say any more than that. Okay, well, here's a counter proposal then. Since the Sarah Jane Adventures is sadly not in production anymore, obviously, I think what we need then is a new show that has a banding together of some of the other companions, and they pick up where Sarah Jane left off. So it could be Joe and Ace and Tegan, and they form their own little investigative thing. Now, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm a producer.
Because you've created something that you can create from a reality of the characters beautifully. I mean, it would be actually terribly funny if you think about it, because you put Tegan, Mrs. Smarty Pants, right? I love her to death. And you know, and you put Ace, you know, right? Where are they? Wham! And you've got Joe with this brood of children saving the planet on the way, you know. But I think all in all, I think that could be a wonderful thing. And as I say, I see it as being extremely funny, but also very clever. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, she has to find her way back from Gallifrey.
Don't worry, we'll get her back.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you worry about that, darling. This is sci-fi. We can do anything.
Okay, we have 5 minutes, and we're gonna take the 5 minutes because we got started just a little bit late.
I'm sorry. I must be so exhausting.
You are very high energy.
I know, and I don't know what to do about it.
Don't do anything about it. Just enjoy it.
The word is invigorating.
I have to tell you, I had a thing called, what's that gas that can get into your house sometimes? No,
Carbon dioxide?
Yes. Right? And I had this alarm in the middle of the night, and this alarm thing in this flat I was in, it kept going off. This was fairly recent. And I got up, and I went, I thought, oh, stupid thing, I'm not cooking toast, why is that going on? And I kicked it, and I smashed it with my foot, and I went back to bed. Right? And then another alarm. I went, that's funny. And I couldn't find this, and it kept up, so I went and I put a pillow over my head, and I turned up the television, and, you know, and it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, suddenly there's all these people banging on my door. And so I went and I said, you know, what's the matter? And they said, Katy, that was your carbon monoxide alarm going off. That's very dangerous. I said, it's also very bloody irritating. And anyway, so then all these people from the National Grid came round and said, this is like 4 o'clock in the morning and my hair's like this, you know. And they said, well, you know, you may need to go to the hospital. And there was a couple of the next door neighbours around and things like that. And they said, and if you start to feel odd and start to behave strangely, well, at that point, all the next door neighbours started to crack up. Basically, and I just looked and I said, nobody would actually know, darling. And share that nonsense with you. Hello, darling. Hello.
I understand you answered this yesterday, but I wasn't here. Can you talk a little bit about getting to go to this set and what it was like? It was great to watch you do that and see Peter. And when you went to the set and met Peter, and we got to see that here in the United States. It was on film. Like, watch it. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like after all those years?
As I say, I was next door playing a sort of a lady who took care of people who had OCD and who had, you know, kind of depression and so on. And I was taking this bump, and this woman run around in the early hours of the morning, naked in the fields with the deer, and she got a tick in her back. And so I was actually, which is very serious things in Lyme's disease, but it is just a little odd that I'm in the next door studio to where they shoot Doctor Who, having prosthetic ticks removed from my back. I don't know why I find it ironic, I do, but it was a lovely character that I was playing. Very, you know, very compassionate, lovely character. Anyway, so I got a message that Peter Capaldi would like to meet me. So I go into the studio, I just push my hair up, because I had this ridiculous hair in this program. I let them torture my hair with curls. And went in to meet him, and he was just so lovely. And he was very, he said, oh, you know, I wish we could go for lunch, but you know, rah, rah, rah. Anyway, so then he said, can we do the pointing shot? Can we do the pointing shot? And he said, oh, get my wee iPad, I'm doing the pointing shot with Katy. And so then I stand up, darling. And
I need a Capaldi coat.
and he said, how did John always get the lining up? I said, like this, sweetie. And I put my arm around him and took the lining, and there's your shot. So it was a joy, and the others, well, that was just me bending over the console, saying, how does this work? And it was lovely, joyous man, absolutely loved
I'm
it.
really, really sorry, but that is...
I've talked too much for you.
Well, the 1 o'clock people are waiting to get up here, so we really kind of have to scoot. But we will be back a little, later this afternoon to do a discussion on the making of the demons. And that's going to be fun. So, join us then.
Thank you so much.